Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Autism Hope Library. I am just so excited about our next guest. I think you're going to really learn so much from all the different strategies and tips and tools that she's going to be giving. So welcome, Victoria. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Kristen. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be able to participate and give back and give some resources and tips for parents.
Well, I love it, and I love our topic today. We're going to be talking about homeschool strategies, and if this isn't the time to talk about it, then I don't know when is, because I feel like everybody suddenly has become a homeschool teacher one way or another, whether it be through the school kind of just saying, hey, you're staying at home, and the parents are now more involved, or some people have actually pulled their kids out of school and now are homeschooling. So it's definitely a different world that we're living in right now. But before we get started on that, I would love for those watching to kind of get a better idea of who you are and what your passion is. And so I know that you are from Money Munch Kids, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So let's talk first, before we go into the homeschool strategy, let's talk about Money Munch Kids.
So yeah, Money Munch Kids is a company that's dedicated to teaching kids about money. And I'm the creator of our curriculum in conjunction with other teachers nationally, internationally as well. So we have lots of experts that we work with. And we not only have our own curriculum designed for homeschooling, but we also have a lot of games and accessories and other products that really help parents teach their kids about the lifelong skill that you're going to use forever of managing your money. And I just think it's so important because we use it every single day. So I'm super passionate about like life skills.
I love that. And so, when you're looking at Money Munch Kids, like what made you so passionate to want to help kids with finances?
Well, I actually grew up playing games like Cash Flow from Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. My parents were entrepreneurs in like one way or another. And actually several different points in my life, I had small businesses from like when I was a kid and, like making jewelry and like selling it just for like spare cash. And it was very clear that I was an entrepreneur from like very young. So I'm now looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, this totally makes sense. But after that, I went into a career like everyone else. And during college, I have a little brother, and I saw him and other kids I knew from other families start talking about money. I had friends who were graduating, and I just saw that there was a lack of financial education and financial literacy. And the more I kept poking at it, trying to find resources, I just couldn't find anything. And necessity is the mother of invention. So I created Money Munch Kids, and now I get to see and meet all the little kids that I are taking my course and learning and be like, oh, like I remember when I got to meet like Robert Kiyosaki, and now they're like doing the same thing with me, being like, oh my God, you're the lady from the book. And I'm like, oh,
Aw, I
it's
love
so
that.
cute. It's so sweet.
That is amazing. And I love that you're so passionate, and you're right. Like, finances are not going to go anywhere. Like, this is something we all
Nope.
have to learn, whether it be that you're on the spectrum or you're not on the spectrum. At some point, you have to have some understanding of that. And so I love that. What an awesome story. Well, now today I know we're going to be talking about homeschool strategies. And so many families right now, they're just so stressed out about what's going on and what's happening. And, a lot of them have never, other than maybe helped with homework from time to time, have never really participated a lot. And at this level, I should say,
Yeah.
when it comes to the education, and that's not a bad or a good thing. That's just part of life. Their children went to school, and, maybe they helped with homework, or maybe they had a tutor. Well, now suddenly, mom, dad, guardian, whoever's in the house, they are now the teachers. And, yes, they have online, help at times, depending on what they're using. But a lot of the people right now, they don't know how to set up a classroom. They don't know, are they supposed to have a designated classroom? Are they supposed to,
Yeah.
have all these different tools that maybe they never had before? So let's talk about that. When you're setting up a classroom at your house, what does that look like? Do you have to have a special room? Does it only have to be at the kitchen table?
Yeah, it's actually really funny because when I was homeschooled, that's what I had. I had the kitchen table, and our place was you sit at the kitchen table, you do all your work, and then you get to go. And however long it took you, that's how long you were sitting there. And what I in my first off, my personal experience, I hated it. So then what happened in my journey, in my view of the homeschooling and meeting all these different families, I found that really it really depends on your family, on yourself, on your child. You know, it doesn't have to be this strict, like sitting at the desk doing your work. Like if your child wants to get up and walk around or pace while they're reading or while they're listening to an audiobook or whatever, let them do that. They're going to, otherwise their ability to absorb that information is just going to severely dwindle. And if your child learns better by just sitting and doing the work and like crunching it out, then like let him do that. There are some kids like they'll do some work at the table, then they'll go to the living room, then maybe they'll have a snack while they're doing like their math homework or whatever, or their math lesson. Let them move around, because you have to kind of let your child lead on it. So long as the education is being done, what does it matter whether we're sitting here or there or standing or outside? Like it's just about what works best for us. And I've learned a lot about study habits and about the ability for children to learn in different environments. And it really is that everyone is so different. I have a twin, and he and I have completely different learning styles. So I would really highly advise parents to allow themselves and their children to have that flexibility.
Yeah, and I know with us, obviously I homeschool, and we've been doing it for, gosh, I guess 16 plus years. And we found for our family that we have set up a designated area, but we really created this really awesome space. It's about 800 square feet. We were lucky enough to have this extra space in our home, and we built an entire play center in a sense, and we call it a rec room now because he's gotten older. So it's really evolved with him, right? So when he was younger it was one way, and then as he needed different things, so it's almost like his man kind of cave, but it has windows and skylights, and we have a swing set, like the now it's an older swing where it's more like a hammock in there for him, and really just kind of let it grow with him. And that's kind of his area to where if he just wants to go relax, if he wants to do schoolwork, if he wants to do crafts, if he wants to watch a movie, if he literally, whatever it is, that's him. Now it's interesting because we even have we've just about a year ago moved our washer and dryer out to this area, and we've actually incorporated this as part of his life skills. So it's part of his area. And so, families often will be like, oh, but I don't have 800 square feet. We just happen to have that. So I want to make sure we're talking on all sides. So maybe you have a 1-bedroom apartment, and I love that you can go anywhere. Maybe you have extra room and you're like, hey, I can do this. And it's really how I look at it for our son is we call it the rec room, right? And it's really his area. And that's like he has ownership over that, and we love that about it. So it's not just his bedroom or the kitchen. Now, do we work in the kitchen at times? Absolutely. Do we work in the living room? Yes. Do we work in the backyard? Do we work in the pool? I mean, like literally, I love that you say that you can work anywhere, because you absolutely can. And so I think families right now are just so stressed out of, like, I've heard families go, oh, I don't even have a desk. I don't even have a special basket to put this stuff. I don't have that, this or that. Truly, you don't need that. Like, I don't really think you have to have that. I think, like you said, it's really about what works for that family unit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you converted the space as your child got older. And I think we love to get stuck in our patterns and in our habits. And so when something's like something that we're comfortable with, we don't want to change it. But it is really important to be able to have the flexibility, again, just kind of going back to that flexibility, to change things as your child gets older and as things change. Even subject to subject might be a different place or might be a different style of learning. It really depends on what works for you. So, and a lot of times when I get new homeschooling families, I always sound like, relax, like don't freak out about it. It's going to take you some time to get the hang of it. And it's going to take your child some time to get a hang of it too, because this is a different environment. We used to have a after school program, and the one thing that I do in our curriculums is that there's an answer at the bottom for every question for like quizzes and things like that. It says D, I don't know. And when I first told the kids in our after school program, like, hey guys, so there's no right answer, like they legit had meltdowns. So like having the flexibility, like they're not used to it. So it's going to take them time to get used to this new environment, to being able to say, like, can I can I go sit on the couch? Can I read on the bed? Like, I did all my SAT prep on my bed. Like, I remember with like tons of books and papers everywhere. It's fine because I still did it. I still got it, past my SATs. And that's not a traditional like desk, but it worked. So it is that flexible. I love yes, absolutely grow and change things, even from child to child, year to year, subject to subject. It's going to change.
I love that. And so, one other thing you kind of mentioned where people get overwhelmed. Oh my goodness. I feel like so many people right now are so overwhelmed because a lot of us are working full-time jobs. We now suddenly are becoming homeschool teachers. And obviously because I've set my life up this way 16 plus years ago, this has not been an overwhelming thing for me, but I remember feeling overwhelmed in the beginning when I was like, I don't really know what we're doing and trying to figure all this out. But right now, there's a lot of families that, they have just literally been thrown into this. They are totally overwhelmed. So do we have 3 tips on what you would say to these families that are feeling overwhelmed right now? Because especially now with the school year, I mean, I know you're in California, I'm in California. Right now, there's so, I know that even just different districts don't even know what they're doing yet. And so a lot of families, they're on edge right now. They don't know if their kids are going to school. They don't know if their kids are staying home. They don't know what it's going to look like. And so, do you have 3 tips to say, hey, it's okay. You don't need to be overwhelmed. So what can you tell them?
Yes, 3 tips. Wow. So I guess the first thing would be exactly what you just said, it's okay. Calm down. It'll be fine. Even if you don't know what you're doing, and a lot of parents, especially new parents, whether they're in because of this, emergency situation, or they just decided to homeschool, it's really funny because now there is just so much out there that trying to sift through it, even if you're not, even if you're homeschooling your child full time, and that's all you're doing, there's still so much out there. And now adding on top of it with going to work, and I sympathize, I do. So just take a breath. It'll be fine. Your child will not suffer immensely if it takes you a minute to get a hang of it. It's going to take them a minute to get a hang of it too. And really, just don't put all that pressure on yourself, because number 1, you really don't need to. It'll be fine. They'll survive. Number 2, on that, they will feel that anxiousness, and then you're creating an environment of learning that's filled with anxiety, and that's not a good environment to learn in. So take a breath. The next thing I would say is try to work with your child or your children to help go with subjects and styles and topic matters that are going to work with them the best. Let your child take lead. If you see your child is crazy about science, well, then go and look for a fun interactive science curriculum and work with what their passion is. You're still going to have to round out that education, but if you're passionate and you encourage that spark of learning, it's going to make it so much easier. And there's also tons of free resources. I actually recently did a conference, and we have Homeschooling 101. There's lots of homeschool groups that they will literally throw resources at you. So you're not alone. There's a lot of parents who understand what you're going through, and a lot of kids in the same situation as your children too. So don't be afraid to go out there and ask for help. And I would also say that YouTube is your friend.
I love that. And I know, a lot of families right now with special needs kids that are watching, they are overwhelmed because they're used to having their therapist. They're used to having their special aides there. They're used to having, just the different teachers and their specialists there. And right now, a lot of the families are like, well, I'm not a specialist. I don't know what to do. Now you want me to be online, and my speech language pathologist is online, and my kid's not really getting it. And so I know for us, what I try to tell families is, just do your best and try to learn what the speech language pathologist is doing. And maybe you only get 5 minutes versus an hour. That's okay. And maybe your school, quote unquote, is a little bit different. So you're going to do your best to whatever is being thrown at you, whether it be speech or OT, and maybe they're not one-on-one there. The child's already feeling a little bit lost because they're used to their routines. They're used, especially special needs kids, they are used to their routines. They're used to having what feels comfortable in the norm, suddenly that's gone with no warning. So there was no way to even prep them for this. And
Yeah.
so, I always tell people like, hey, your school gets to be however it needs to look right now. And so, whether it be life skills, whether it be, it's not this 8-hour day where everyone's also freaking out, like, oh, I'm supposed to do this for 8 hours. And like, I think honestly, life just becomes schooling, right? And so that's something the next step we're going to talk about, or the next question I should say, is okay, let's talk about that, because this is life. And maybe you have multiple kids. Maybe English is not your first language. And so now you're on this online school where like the teachers are trying to talk and English is not your first language and your child's younger and you're trying to help that. You have, let's say, 2, 3, 4 kids and everybody has their own like issues, right? So like maybe this one has special needs and maybe this one's young and maybe this one's older. There's just so much going on. And so, how do we incorporate life into that and really not feel like we're failing every day?
Well, I mean, I love this quote. Oh my God, I'm so nerdy. I'm sorry. I'm super nerdy. And I remember the one quote from Batman was that they said, why do we fall, Master Bruce, being Bruce Wayne, Batman. And so we can learn to get back up. And so it's okay if, you feel like you didn't win the day 100%. Nobody feels like they won the day 100%. We were talking right before this and I recently had a solid week where I have chronic migraines and I didn't get anything done. And I felt like such a complete failure. I'm like, I need to work on my business. I need to do all this and that and that. And I didn't get any of it done. And I needed to take a step back and realize that the more I pushed myself, or if you push yourself or your children, the harder it's going to become to bounce back. Mm-hmm. So you really want to, relax on that. It's okay if you didn't win the day 100%. And there's just so much also that you said that I just want to touch on, which is that I do encourage incorporating all learning within everyday activities, because most of the things that we learn in traditional school, maybe we use a small portion of it, but there's a lot of life skills that we learn that commingle. So many subjects in my personal experience and in my view so many lessons cross subjects. You can be talking or listening to an audiobook while you're cooking and you are learning some of that information. And especially with younger kids, things need so much repetition that it's okay if you do things a few times. And I always encourage to work with different mediums, I guess you would call it, where, you're doing, I just did a talk and I'm going to be putting it up soon on YouTube, that how math is in everyday real life, like all different types of math. And a lot of people, for example, think of like cooking and they're thinking about just measuring cups. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. We're also talking about like temperatures and how different chemicals and stuff interact with each other. So you need to kind of, I say, learn outside of your box to be able to help your child learn what they can. And as far as families with children on the spectrum, and I would also encourage any family, regardless of if your child's on the spectrum or not, to establish some sort of routine. And it doesn't need to be an 8-hour day learning day. Like, no, we don't like to go to work for 8 hours. Why would your child want to sit and learn for 8 hours? You can take breaks. And I think it's important to encourage for them to learn when they need to take a break. Because after that, like if you push yourself, you are just not going to get anything. You're not going to retain any of that information. So having that flexibility to be like, what, we're going to learn 2 hours today. And then we're going to learn, when we're feeling really, really great and we have all that energy, then we can go and have like a 4 or 5 hour a day. And being able to recognize those patterns within your child and to help them recognize those patterns within themselves, because that's going to help them when they're an adult, right? Those are those life skills, learning to understand how you learn, how you function, so you can hack yourself. And I would also suggest that a lot of parents, as far as their children, allow them to have some autonomy, because it's super important for them to be able to learn as they grow older, to be able to do things and take care of things on their own anyway. So let them take the lead and say like, oh, you know what, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I have to go work. You do this, what your assignment is, what you're going to do, right? And I mean, we don't want to, leave them completely alone, within earshot, the mother's, eye in the back of the head kind of thing. But allow them to do their work, even if it's for 20 minutes at a time, so that they can do it and you can have, okay, get yourself in the space to do what you need to do. And that lets them know that you feel responsible for themselves, learn a sense of autonomy, and feel confident that they can handle stuff on their own. And also then you're teaching them that to be able to handle those lessons and beyond that into their future, to be able to handle any education, any prospect. And if you don't know something, it's okay to show them that you don't know and to learn together. And then, move on to maybe having them do it on their own as well. I think showing kids that we don't know things as adults is very important, because there's a lot of kids, and I had this when I grew up, I thought I was going to be able to like take charge and Superman and do anything. And then you get to be an adult and you're like, oh my God, there's so much I don't know. Mm-hmm. And you just feel embarrassed and feel like you failed, or you didn't win the day 100% because you took you much longer because you didn't know what you didn't know. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very important for us to show kids that it's okay to not know things and to learn at all ages.
I love that. And I know, like with special needs too, that I think a lot of people freak out if they're not a therapist or, oh, I'm not trained. But I always tell people, your kid better than anybody else. Mm-hmm. And so like with my son, we do every moment is a teaching moment, like every moment from the moment he wakes up to the time he goes to bed. And so, I love the audiobooks. I don't want to say the word Alexa because there's one in my office and I'm going to start talking. But we love these portable things that you have where they can read stories to you, right? And so we use that a lot where we're like, okay, we're going to have an audiobook being played, and maybe later we might actually read the actual book. So now we've been able to put two things together. And during that audiobook, it could be that he's helping prep his breakfast, or he's helping prep his lunch, or maybe he's doing some chores. And then even as he's doing chores, I'll say, oh, how many knives did you just put away? Mm-hmm. Right? Oh, there's 10. Okay, well, gosh, I've just gotten math and I've gotten reading, and I'm able to get these different things in. And then, we might end up, going to the pool later that day in our backyard. And, you can actually put science in there, because you can go, oh, let's water the flowers first. And maybe we stop at the garden and we start to work in our garden a little bit. Well, that's science, right? And then you can even play math games, because you can throw the diving sticks in the pool.
Yes,
and
exactly.
You can literally do, subtraction and addition. And wherever your child's at, like our child's not at a very sophisticated level. But, because he's on the spectrum and he's, I don't like to say moderate to severe, but whatever that means, right? But he's 18 and he's at about a first grade level. So we teach him what he understands, right? Mm-hmm. And, and then we even use, outside music. So now you have music time. And there's so many things where I feel like so many families get so stressed out of their curriculum. We definitely use the curriculum, right? But every day we go, okay, some days we don't hit every single thing, but then we go, okay, great. At the end of the week, we look and go, where's our gaps? And we try to fill it in. But we also don't do schoolwork in our life. It's how we look at it. It's not Monday through Friday. Ours is 7 days a week. So there's 7 days a week from the minute he wakes up to the minute he goes to sleep that he is learning. And we're constantly, putting that, on for him. There's a really great quote that I love and I truly do live by. And I think that many of you guys watching, I hope this helps you, because I love this quote. If a child can't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn.
Yes.
And I think for right now, especially what's going, whether or not you're homeschooling traditionally, or you're homeschooling because you're working with a school district and you're having to do all this stuff online, you know what? I love that you said, just take a breath. It's okay. And I think right now it's even a really cool opportunity, because our kids are going to get to learn in the less traditional way, which I feel like you can do more. You can incorporate cooking. You can incorporate chores. You can, I was talking to this one family who don't have special needs kids, and they're like, the house is a mess. This is a mess. And I'm like, wait a second. You don't have special needs kids, and yet my kids are doing chores why do you not have a whole business structure model set up to where they have to earn different things? And you can literally, even some of the older kids could become the supervisors so they can actually get work on, experience. You can actually set schedules. You can have negotiations. There's so many things you could be doing. So, which you can't do in traditional classroom settings. So I think that, if you are thinking outside the box, as you said, I love that. And even for special needs kids, we have for our son, he definitely has to earn, he has to earn from his piggy bank, right? And then he can buy something with that. And he has to learn like, oh, this costs money. When I go to work, it's hilarious because I'll say, mommy has to go to work. And he learned at a very young age, mommy's working hard for the money, right? But he had to that song, and so we'll sing that song, working hard for the money, right? And it's something that we laugh about, but he gets that. He understands. And when something like breaks, I'll say, gosh, Jackson, that costs a lot of money. We have to work hard for that money, and we have to understand that there's a value to that. It's because I think a lot of kids just think it's like, oh, use your debit card. Like, don't you just use that debit card thing? And like, that's where you get the money. And I feel like, I love that you have this Money Munch Kids. I love that you have these tools for these kids. And I think of any age, I think there's people I know in their 50s that probably need your curriculum because they don't understand.
I hear that so much.
They just don't. And so now I want to talk a little bit before we end here. You talked about having a YouTube channel. What is the YouTube channel?
All you have to do is go to YouTube and type in Money Munch Kids, and we'll be the first one that comes up, actually. And we have I should also point out, you had some great examples. There's a couple of talks from me, one of which is how to teach financial education in your home DIY. I think it's like a 25-minute video. And that has a lot of examples, like you just pointed out, about like making making an earning system in your house, and how you can do it both with money and without money so that you can still instill those lessons. About I have a video on how to use video games for education and get us thinking outside the box. And I have a lot of great videos, again, from this conference I recently did, from a lot of people who have been veteran homeschoolers for many, many years, and with a lot of great different kinds of information on a variety of like subject topics on how you can start homeschooling, on crisis homeschooling. So that's relevant to a lot of parents right now, and working with like intrinsic versus extrinsic motivations, and just really great videos on like how to hack your homeschool in the best way that's most suitable for you and your family. So just Money Munch Kids on YouTube.
And it's all free, guys. Like, it's a free resource. You can watch it at 2 o'clock in the morning in your PJs. I love that. And so how do people
with the Ben and Jerry's.
Or a glass of wine if you're like me. But so how do people find out more about Money Munch Kids? What's your website?
It's just moneymunchkids.com, and I just want to throw out some more free resources out there. We actually have a whole resource section that not only has articles on how to teach your kids about money, but also has articles for adults about financial education and money management. So there's lots of free stuff, for the 50-year-olds, like you said, that may want some of that information too. And I always encourage parents to work with their kids on a lot of these topics, because if you're learning, then they're going to learn too. So,
and we're always learning, right? There's never a moment. I don't care if you're 105 one day, you're going to always be learning something. So those families out there right now that are like going, all right, I'm going to take a deep breath, because she said take a deep breath. Like, and yes, please take a deep breath. You're going to survive through this. And I love all the resources. But what is your final message you want to tell those families watching?
As you're saying, we're always learning, is to create and live the idea of being a lifelong learner, because we do learn every day, no matter if it's through a book or a structured lesson or not. I learned that I have to close the the oil cap on my car fully the other day. Because I don't know very much about cars, and that was a learning lesson, because it had apparently come off. And so you're always learning, and it's okay to show kids that you're always learning, and it's a great environment and mentality to be in, because then, you don't feel dumb, you don't feel like you failed, you feel like you learned something new. And I think that's also a really great mentality to pass on to our kids, because they struggle a lot, especially if they're on the spectrum or their special needs. We deal with dyslexic students as well. So, where they feel like, oh, I'm in a higher grade, but I'm learning out of this level book. And it's not that you failed. You're just a different kind of learner, and you're learning every day, different things, new ways. So
I love that. Learning every day, different things, new ways. So thank you so much for being here today. And for everybody watching, and remember what she said, take a deep breath, and we're just going to keep on learning, and we're just going to do our best. And every moment that, in my mind, that our child's awake, no matter how old they are, they can learn something, and it doesn't have to be this kind of crazy structure of sitting down at the table for 8 hours. So if you know that, then I think you're going to be okay. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you everybody for watching. Until next time. Bye, guys.